I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today I'm having the first Australian drive of the new Range Rover Velar. The Velar was, in fact, the name given to the first prototype Range Rover right back in the 1970s, and the badge now returns for a new model that the British brand hope will do really big business for them. This time around, the Velar is no experiment. Instead, it slots between the established Evoque and Sport models and lobs a grenade right at lifestyle SUVs like Porsche's Macan and the BMW X4 and X6 pair. Size-wise, the Velar actually isn't that far off a Range Rover Sport, but the stance is quite different, with a very wide and squat profile and really aggressive detailing across the exterior. The interior really takes it up a notch as well, so before we drive the new Velar, let's jump in and check it out. Land Rover were going for a really high-end and bespoke feel when they designed this cabin, and in comparison to the Range Rover Sport, which has a relatively utilitarian dashboard, the Velar wows with a standard technology proposition that includes dual 10-inch touchscreens. The top screen is essentially Jaguar Land Rover's InControl Touch Pro system. It's now finished in gloss. The bottom screen includes controls for the climate, the seats, and the off-road functions. Now, it's this bottom screen, along with all of this piano black around it, that is a real fingerprint magnet, and that's why Land Rover bundle a microfiber cloth underneath the adjustable armrests. I would be using that a lot. Like most Land Rovers, you do get a choice of seats. These ones are the 18-way, 3-position memory versions. This is the high-end seat. They're nice and soft. They offer good, genuine distance comfort. However, I do wish that the under-thigh angle adjustment was a little bit more aggressive. The fact that you can tighten or loosen the side bolsters means that they are a good seat for various body types, however. There are 8 different color combinations. That comes in leather or premium non-leather materials for people who are a little bit more environmentally conscious. Premium Meridian stereos are also available in the Velar. Material quality, that's good. There's leather or leather-like surfaces across most of this interior. Practicality is also acceptable. It's not as practical as the new Land Rover Discovery, which has heaps of cubby spaces. The glove box here is pretty small. This central box where you find the 2 USB ports is only medium-sized, but you do at least get 2.5 cup holders here across the center console. The Velar is about 4 centimeters shorter than the Range Rover Sport, about that much, and you can feel that here in the back seat because it's not massive. Now, it is adequate, especially for 2 adults, particularly because headroom is good, even if you go for the panoramic sunroof. Legroom's okay, tow room is just okay, seriously. There's quite a big hump here in the middle of the 2 seats as well, so carrying a third person would be a little bit awkward. The actual third seat too is quite tiny. So keep it to 2 adults back here and everyone will be happy. Now, they'll be particularly happy because there are a few nice amenities back here. Firstly, the back seat does actually recline quite away. Plus, you can get heated rear seats as well. There are, of course, air vents on every Velar. You can see the position that I'm able to get to when the seats are put right back. Now, there's also a fold-down center armrest here with 2 cup holders. And showing that they really do understand their market, there are 2 USB chargers here in the back, plus an extra 12-volt socket. Like its cousin in the JLR stable, the Jaguar F-Pace, the Range Rover Velar really impresses with how much space it gives you back here. You open up the electric tailgate, which is actually nice and quick on this car, and you'll find 673 litres of space behind those back seats. For the class, that's good. Now, there is a bit of a step down to the boot floor. That's a bit unusual, but you get good features. There are shopping bag hooks. There's another 12-volt socket. And if you were to fold down the back seats, you'd actually have over 1,700 litres of space, which is more than enough for flat pack furniture and the like. As usual on these first drive reviews, I'll keep my thoughts on the Velar pretty brief until I can get it back to Sydney and drive it on the roads that I like assessing cars on. But first impressions are good for 2 reasons. Firstly, the Velar has really carved out its own personality in the Jaguar Land Rover lineup. It doesn't feel like a Jaguar F-Pace, doesn't feel like a Range Rover Sport. It's doing its own thing. But buyers in particular will compare it to the F-Pace when they go into a Jaguar Land Rover dealership. And it's different in 2 big ways. It's quieter, and it also rides significantly more comfortably than the F-Pace, particularly on large wheels like 20s and the 21-inch wheels that I'm driving now. But I think people will like that. I think that's what you expect from the Range Rover brand compared to a Jaguar. But I'll talk more on the handling in a sec. Firstly, let's go over what engines you can get with the Velar. So there's actually 6, 4 4-cylinders and 2 V6s. On launch, we were only able to sample 3, a high-spec diesel 4 called the D240, which produces 177 kilowatts and 500 newton meters, as well as the 2 V6s, a twin-turbo diesel making 221 kilowatts and 700 newton meters, as well as the familiar supercharged petrol producing 280 kilowatts and 450 newton meters. So, which is best? Well, for most, the 4-cylinder diesel will be totally sufficient as it feels up to the task of motivating the Velar, and it's a better fit than it is in the new Discovery. However, wind it out and you'll find characteristic diesel clatter. My favourite engine is the D300, the twin-turbo diesel 6, which is creamy, refined and rapid while returning good fuel consumption under 10 litres per 100 k's, but speed demons will like the Jaguar F-Type supercharged petrol P380 engine under the bonnet for maximum attack, at least until a possible Velar SVR V8 arrives in future. Handling is fairly good for a Land Rover, though a Velar won't challenge a Porsche Macan in twisty sections. The Range Rover is happy to hustle if you want it to, but it prefers long-distance cruising, where the excellent air suspension, standard on 6-cylinder cars, irons out bumps with aplomb, even on 21-inch wheels. And it's super silent in the futuristic cabin, with excellent isolation of wind and road noise, even on those big wheels. Land Rovers still don't believe in making soft-roaders, and so off-road, the Velar is more than capable. We tested the 650mm weight capability and 251mm of ground clearance, both of which require air suspension to get that high, plus the decent approach and departure angles on a long 2-hour trek in the Blue Mountains. For an unabashed lifestyle SUV, the Velar can do far more than its owners will ever demand of it. Back on road, safety technology is just acceptable. Manual cruise control remains standard, which is a letdown at this end of the market, but at least AEB and lane departure warning are now standard. So, on first impressions then, what does the Velar offer? Well, we've got many Range Rover traits people love in a sexier, sleeker body. This car is properly comfortable, at least on air suspension. It offers refined and powerful engines, and as long as you're light-handed with the options, the cost doesn't have to get out of control. But most importantly, this car feels like a proper Range Rover, not just a gussied-up Land Rover or a Sport Light. The Velar has its own character, a sort of modern luxury that I think buyers are really going to like.